What's going on today, everybody? Well, I got a buddy of mine that's having some problems with his car, and he's got, turns out to be a blown head gasket in his '09 Impreza. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna break this up into parts, and the first part's gonna be is how to remove the engine out of your Subaru. First things first, we're gonna tear into this engine, but to get to it, the easiest way is to actually go ahead and remove the hood. So we're gonna go ahead, remove the hood, and then remove the main components that we have to actually take apart to get this engine out. So we're gonna go ahead, remove that hood, and I'll check back with you. So here's the main things that are really holding your engine together. The biggest thing is right on the back, you've got your transfer, or in this case it's a manual, you've got your transmission. You've got transmission bolts, and that's holding it all to the transmission. So we know we've got to take those out. And then the engine is held to the frame by your motor mounts. Those are on the bottom, so we got to take those out. And then all the little spiderweb stuff, hoses, air boxes, that stuff will have to go. So your fuel filter or your fuel lines, those will definitely have to go. Let's see, your coolant line, that has to go. Your AC lines, those have to be moved off the engine and put to the side actually. So we'll go ahead and we'll take the battery out and put the AC condenser right where the battery was. And then there should be a couple heater hoses in the back, and I think a couple vacuum lines on that side. And then we'll go ahead and we've got our air box that needs to come out and our intake stuff that needs to come off. Our main wire loom should be over here. It's right here. So our main wire loom for all the wiring to the engine needs to come off. And there should be a couple ground straps, one on this side to the head and one on that side to the head, that need to come out. The other super important thing is on the bottom. So here's one of the bigger things you do not want to forget, and that is your O2 sensor. It's hooked to your exhaust. $100 part to replace almost every single time. So if you can avoid breaking those wires, definitely do it. So don't forget that. The other thing we'll have to do is we'll have to unbolt this exhaust. I'll probably do the header off the engine, and that way I don't have to take all the exhaust all the way back off. I just have to take this header off, and then we should be done. So we've got our hood coming off. There's two 12s right there, and then don't forget about your washer fluid. You can undo it either right here, or there might be another. It looks like right here is going to be your best bet. And then there's going to be two 10s holding the shock housing on. We'll leave the shock on the car attached at the bottom, but we'll take it off the hood so the whole hood can come off. And that will be same on each side minus the hose. Cool. We've gone ahead and taken the hood off of it, and the best place to put a hood is actually on the roof. Make sure you have a couple towels to put down on all your pinch points so it doesn't scratch anything. Got that done. Next, always important to put chocks behind the wheels of your tires, because whether it's on flat or on a hill, we're going to be removing the engine, and the engine will be holding a lot of the friction in the drivetrain. So it's always best choice to put something behind the wheels so it doesn't roll away on you. Next step, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get this coolant and the oil drained out of here. Since we've got problems with both of them, they need to go anyways. They need to go so I can take the engine out. So let's go ahead, drain those, and we're gonna also start taking off some of the, like the air box, and getting ready to remove the radiator and a couple other things. If you're having a little trouble finding the coolant plug, it's this little bolt. It's a plastic bolt that's got a little Phillips head on it, and it's on the passenger side, far side of the cooler, and it's on the bottom, obviously. So you go ahead and you just unscrew this, and then it drains out.
First thing you should do when you're working on your vehicle is probably remove the battery.
So we're starting to make a dent in this engine bay. We've got our battery out, got the air box and all the air stuff going to the top. Next thing we're gonna do, now that the radiator is done leaking, losing all the coolant, we're gonna go ahead and take off the upper hose and then the lower hose. This is the driver's side of the vehicle, is right here. Lower hose, and then there's one wire right here that's connected to your fan. So we'll go ahead, remove that, we'll put our plug back in and then remove both these hoses, and then these upper mounts will come off and the whole radiator system will pull out.
And then we can set this to the side and get rid of it.
Since we got this radiator out, I'm gonna go ahead and crack the thermostat housing on the bottom, and that will release all the coolant out of the engine, because right on the other side of this is your thermostat. Your thermostat's a spring to actually hold the coolant into the engine, and that will open at a certain temperature. So by cracking this, we should be able to get the rest of the coolant out of the block, so there's less on the floor later.
Any extension?
Nope, I got it. I got a little bit of coolant out of this, but not as much as I thought there would be. So the thermostat is probably holding back a lot of the coolant still in the engine. So we'll try to go ahead and get this thermostat out of here. There's the coolant that I was looking for. So now that we've got a lot of the stuff going on at the top out, and a lot of the radiator out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and spray some WD-40 on the exhaust bolts. Now there's 3 on each side of the cylinders that's holding the header to the block, and then you're gonna have either, if it's a turbo, you're gonna have a Y pipe or a shorty pipe going up to your turbo, or if it's going to your exhaust. Either way, we gotta get this header off, so we're gonna go ahead and get some WD-40 on it before we start reefing on it so it can soak in a little bit. So while we're working on this top end, we'll let the bottom exhaust, because the exhaust is usually rusted out, we're gonna let that soak in and hopefully loosen up a lot of the rust that's on it. So we've gone ahead and we've loosened up our alternator, taken this, undone this bolt, and then this bolt goes all the way down, drops this end of the alternator down, and then you've got this bolt sitting on this side right here that needs to come out. That one will come out, and then you've got your main power harness and then your controlling harness. That will pull out of the way, and then this whole alternator will actually come out now. And we'll set that to the side.
Yeah.
A really good tip is to take the bolts where they were at and put them back in so that you know exactly where they go. And that's less loose bolts you have laying around. So we'll go ahead and put our bolts back in this alternator. Since we've got it out, we'll go ahead and put them where they were, how they were, so we know the orientation of everything. They don't have to be tight, just get them in there so they stay in, and then we'll put it to the side. So all the bolts are staying with that component if they can. So we're gonna start working on this AC compressor right here. We've got this loom that we need to take the rest of the way off, and that should just come off real easy. And then there's bolts. There's one right here, one right here. There's one really hard to see right back there. And then there's one right underneath your oil stick right here. Those should be all for the bracketry with your AC compressor. So that way, that's less stuff that we've got to take off with the engine when we pull the engine actually out. So go ahead, get the AC compressor, and the lines are still connected to this AC. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take this and put it right where the battery was when it's done. So it's out of the way enough, and we don't have to go ahead and bleed our AC and then re-put AC in it. Same with our power steering. We're gonna go ahead and undo our power steering and put it over where the airbox is. That's why we took the airbox and the battery out, is for those spaces. You don't need to take them out to take the engine out, but it makes it way easier to have the space to put that there as the alternative where you just have them in the way when you're trying to pull them out. So the more room you have, the more you can see, the less problems you're gonna have. So there we go, we've got all of our accessories off the front of this engine. Our AC compressor sitting over here, And then our power steering pump is sitting over here. Power steering pump had 3 bolts on it, 1, 2, and 3, and this little white clip. And then the AC compressor had this black clip in the top that needed to come out. So this is your alternator loom, and that's over to the side because that's connected to your fuse box. That'll just hang out over there, and then this power steering, or our AC compressor, will just stay over here. One thing we're gonna have to worry about is here's the hose for it. You don't want to kink it too much. It's okay to kink it a little bit, but we're gonna go ahead and get it as far out of the engine bay as we can so it's not in the way. Now, I think we're gonna go ahead and try to tackle the transmission, all those bolts, and our starter should come out, and then our main wire loom. Pop that off and it should be good. So now we've got the exhaust, the header out. It's got 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3. This is the driver's side, this would be the passenger side. 1, 2, 3. And then it's also got 3 right here that need to come off. After that, we've got our 2 clips that mount up top here that are on this. Those 2 clip off, and then the whole header is off of it. Now that we've got the header off, we're working on our transmission bolts. And there's your starter is right here. Your starter will have 2. The 2 bolts will be different than all the other bolts. And then there should be 2 on the bottom that are nuts on studs. So I think there's a total of 8 bolts that go around. You can see if you're looking at the back of the side of your engine here, this flat bar right here is your engine, and then right on the other side this is your transmission. So this is the seam right here where the 2 break apart. So you can go around and you see everything this is all coming out, this is all staying with the car. So we're gonna go ahead, remove that. There's a grounding strap here that needs to come out of the way, and then the bolts should come out of the way, and we should be able to just get this out of here. I've already gone ahead and removed the fuel lines from this. Be careful, there will be fuel out of it, but it's got this pressure clip on it. I have a video on my channel that has how to remove those the easy way. Basically 2 zip ties, push the zip ties into the green part and it pops back out. Simple, easy, done. Now we've got 2 heater hoses back here right behind them. 1 right here, 1 right below it. Those need to come out and finish the transmission bolt, so we should be good. I know that things don't really look too much different, but they actually are. We got the heater hoses off in the back, and we managed to get all of the transmission bolts out except for 1. We've got 1 easy to access one on this side, on the passenger side, left in it, so it doesn't separate. Gone ahead and we've got the engine mounts, both unbolted from the frame. We've got our chain on here, just looped around. And it is ready to pull out. So we're going to go ahead and put a bottle jack underneath the transmission to help prop it up, because the engine has 2 prongs coming down on it, the engine mounts. They're 2 bolts, they sit down in the frame, and that has to come up before it comes out. Well, if we pull it up with the cherry picker and then try to yank it out, the transmission is going to slam down pretty hard. So we're going to just put a bottle jack under there, put some pressure on it to get it up over the frame, the engine mount up over the frame, and then we should be able to wiggle it off of the transmission shaft. Well, there we go. We finally got the engine out. It was a little bit of a struggle there at the end, trying to get the old transmission to separate from the actual engine. But after we played around with it a little bit, we managed to get a screwdriver in and kind of pry ourselves around, work our way up to a bigger screwdriver, and it finally came out, as you saw. So that's going to be it for this part 1 of this series. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you like what we're doing here, please please don't forget to subscribe. If this was helpful at all, leave a big like, thumbs up. That would be great for me. If you have a different way or anything else that you're doing, please leave a comment. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here, everybody. Work on part 2. You enjoy the rest of your night. Peace.
That's why they call me the best in the biz.
You got one? Here, double time.
Oh, barely gets on there. Yeah.
Wow, look at that professional photography. Look at that shot. It's a freaking hot shot you got going on right